The word transformation literally means to change the form of something. And in this new energy and the spiritual transformation that is occurring with everyone, all of the humans on the planet right now, it's important to understand some vital principles from the Vedic astrology perspective. And one of them is the Gandanta, or the knot's end. Ganda in Sanskrit literally means the knot that ties to the bonds of karma. And Anta means the end of that. So Gandanta means the knot's end, or the point of karmic transformation. Now this can happen either in a birth chart or in transit planets also. Now what does this principle mean in Vedic astrology? Well, first of all, it occurs between the fire and the water zodiac signs in a chart. That means going from Pisces to Aries, or going from Cancer to Leo, or going from Scorpio into Sagittarius. So these are the ones which are marked in the pie chart over there in the yellow highlighted areas, right? So we take this and we analyze this, and because it is very significant, we shall spend a little time even going up to the Nakshatra level of this. So what is basically the Gandanta? It's basically going from water to fire. Means going from Cancer to Leo first, as an example. Cancer is a water sign and it goes into the fire sign of Leo. So it's an elemental level transformation. When fire meets water, or rather when water pours itself into the fire, it transforms it. It extinguishes the fire, one thing. If you put water into fire, it puts out the fire. Also at the same time, water itself ends up being transformed into steam. So if we analyze this basic principle, it will tell us all we need to know about the Gandanta. Both fire and water are mutually transformed when they come in contact with one another. That's what this principle means. Now, if any planets or points or nodes are deposited in your birth chart in these points, in this specific area of your chart, those planets and those kind of energies will end up being transformed. You are here to transform that particular area of life, depending upon which house they fall in, and depending upon what planet it is, that kind of energy needs to be transformed in this life. In the transit, you might have to check what is transiting your birth chart and which area these Gandanta points are falling in. Now, the last two padas of nakshatras that fall on either side of these Gandanta points are as follows. The last two pada of Revati Nakshatra going into the first two padas of Ashwini Nakshatra. The last two padas of Ashlesha Nakshatra going into the first two padas of Magha Nakshatra. The last two pada of Jyeshtha Nakshatra going into the first two padas of Mula Nakshatra. So this is the nakshatra level of analysis which we shall be doing towards the end. The Gandanta points can be seen as an intersection of emotional and transformative energies where the individual's karmic knots or challenges are amplified and brought to the forefront for the person to examine. These knots can manifest in different ways, such as relationship issues, health problems, career setbacks, business setbacks, and they often require a deep level of self-reflection. That's the key word there, self-reflection. Nothing is going to be done automatically in these Gandanta points. You have to reflect upon it. The self-reflection is almost forced upon the individual. You are forced to sit back, look at your life, look at your tendency, look at where you want to do a certain kind of thing, but the external world is in opposition to that. So you need to really examine, right? That's the transformation. It can lead to healing and spiritual growth to be resolved. Now let's see the planets one by one briefly. If Sun is deposited in this angles of Gandanta points, the presence of Sun in Gandanta point can bring about significant shift in one's sense of self and identity. Remember, Sun is the soul significator. Your soul, as represented in the chart, is basically the Sun. So it's a shift in the self itself. It can indicate a need for deeper understanding of one's own purpose and direction in life. Very vital to understand, right? If the moon is in this point, it can signify deeply emotional crisis or a need for healing and inner growth. Having emotion in the right direction, basically. Your emotional content and body might be in conflict with the external world around you in terms of relationships, in terms of anything, okay? It can also indicate a spiritual awakening or a desire to explore the hidden aspects of self. Why? Because moon represents manas, or the subconscious that we have. The hidden unconscious, subconscious, whatever you choose to call it, is what is represented as moon in Vedic astrology. If Mars is deposited in this point, or in these points, it can signify the need for action and transformation in one's life. Mars is like the soldier. It wants action. It wants to get stuff done. So Mars in this point can indicate your change of direction, how you perceive what needs to be acted upon. It can indicate a time of courage and determination because, like I said, Mars is a soldier. It wants to get stuff done. It's an action-oriented planet. So it can indicate a time of courage and determination, but also the possibility of conflict or aggression. When does Mars get angry? It basically gets angry when it perceives a threat or perceives an opposition to what it wants to achieve. If Mercury is present in these points, it can indicate a time of intellectual growth and communication, but also potential for confusion or miscommunication. It can go either ways. We live in a polarized duality, so it can go into the positive aspect or negative aspects, depending upon what? Depending upon your level of self-reflection, folks. If Jupiter is in the Gandanta point, it can signify a significant shift in one's belief system or a new spiritual journey. It can also indicate a time of growth and abundance, but also potential for overindulgence or excessive. Jupiter not only stands for wisdom and growth, but it also stands for abundance of whatever it sits in. Jupiter basically amplifies any energy it sits in. Venus. If Venus is in the Gandanta point, it can indicate a time of deep emotional creative exploration. Venus is the seat of creation. It is also a symbol of birth and death and transformation through that. It can also signify a need for balance and harmony in one's relationship and surroundings. If Saturn is present in the Gandanta point, it can indicate a time of significant challenges and obstacles, but also the potential for deep spiritual growth and transformation. If Rahu and Ketu, the nodes of the moon, are present in the Gandanta point, it can indicate a time of intense spiritual and karmic transformation, where one may experience challenges, obstacles, or sudden changes in areas of life associated with the house they are located in. However, it can also signify a time of profound spiritual growth. So you see a pattern here. Every planet point has got the plus side and the minus side. You can do this in a nice, gentle way, or you can be forced into a particular type of transformation. Normally, what we humans do, we sit and twiddle our thumbs and wait for something to happen from the external world. That would be an unwise thing to do, because the more you postpone such kind of things, the more it will come to you in a more harsher way. It tends to accumulate the energies and come to you all at once. Imagine if I ask you for a glass of water and you keep putting it off, and suddenly I'm so thirsty that I need to drink a whole jug of water, and then it will not be good for the body, right? This is something similar. Now remember, we spoke about the planets moving in one direction as I have indicated there, and the nodes and the moon moving in the opposite direction. So this also becomes a significant point to consider when you are using transits, okay? Where the moon meets the Gandanta point and where the nodes of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, meet the Gandanta point, whereas planets all are going as together in one particular direction, which are opposite to the nodes and the moon. Now let's consider the nakshatras and the padas involved in this Gandanta point evaluation. As you can see, I have marked there Ashwini and Revati Nakshatra. So the last two padas of Revati. So the Gandanta point for Revati becomes between 23 degrees 20 minutes of Pisces, going into 30 degrees of Pisces. And also the next one, Ashwini Nakshatra, which falls between 0 degrees of Aries to 6 degrees 40 minutes of Aries. So this is marked in the boxes, as you can see. These are the Gandanta points for Ashwini to Revati relationship. So Pisces going into Aries. The next one, between Cancer and Leo, falls between Magha Nakshatra and Ashlesha Nakshatra. So the last two padas of Ashlesha, which is basically 23 degrees 20 minutes of Cancer and 30 degrees of Cancer, which is the closing up of Cancer, marked in the box there. And it goes into the sign of Leo, the first nakshatra being Magha Nakshatra. So the 0 degrees of Leo to 6 degrees 40 minutes of Leo. These padas will be crucial. So watch in your birth chart which planets are falling in all these boxes which I have highlighted there. The last Gandanta point we shall deal with is Jyeshtha Nakshatra, which falls in Scorpio, going into Mula Nakshatra, which falls in Sagittarius. So in Jyeshtha Nakshatra, it will fall between 23 degrees 20 minutes of Scorpio to 30 degrees of Scorpio. So we close the Scorpio cycle there. And it also at the same time begins the fire cycle in Sagittarius in Mula Nakshatra, which is at 30 degrees of Sagittarius or 0 degrees of Sagittarius, going into 6 degrees 40 minutes of Sagittarius. So understand, to conclude this Gandanta point, this is a much ignored aspect of astrology. Even in Vedic astrology, they don't take this much into consideration, because guess what? Most of the humans are interested in, well, which BMW can I get, or I want my spouse to be good looking, or I want that particular house. So we spend our time in the superficialities of life, ignoring these fundamental aspects, and when they hit us, we sit and complain, right? We said, oh, my life is falling apart, or this is happening, or that is happening. Understand, folks, don't ignore such knowledge. If you're coming across this, go for it, study it, get to know more about it, appreciate it, because this has got very deep implications for you in your life. Next, we shall be talking about other deeper aspects of transformation, because in this new energies, that's what will drive the engine forward. All the children of new consciousness are participating in this actively. Take care, be safe.